It's hard to believe that we are about to surpass 500 days in my hardcore forever world. And today we are throwing it back to where it all began. As we currently have 3 distinct parts of our land. The mine, the farming district, and of course, the starter house itself. But these 3 builds are in direct violation of my goal to have an interconnected forever world. With no pathways to connect the 3, today we are going to change that. As we come out of the mines, we are going to construct a road leading up to both the starter house and the farming district. There is a bunch of terraforming that needs doing out back to add in some cliff faces, and then to fill in the big open land out south, well, we're gonna add in a village. From taverns to blacksmiths, this bustling acropolis will certainly bring life to this vacant area. And now the crashing problem has solved for my computer, I am so excited to finally say, let's get rolling. Now, to start off my day, I thought I would come here while I did a small bit of editing, and in maybe 5 minutes, we've already got a stack and a quarter of gunpowder. So real quickly, while I make up some more rockets, there's another few stacks of them. I just want to bring you guys up to date on something that you might be seeing up there in the upper right corner. If you notice, well, the tutorial's back, and well, why is that? To be honest, I'm not 100% certain, but I've got a feeling it has something to do with the fact that I was crashing a lot in the last episode, so one of the solutions that I tried was I completely reinstalled Windows on my hard drive, which meant I had to, well, my SSD, which meant I had to copy this world onto my external hard drive and then back onto my computer. And I feel like that might have triggered the tutorial once again. And with that out of the way, it was time to take care of a couple of miscellaneous tasks, like sorting out the shulker monster that was inside of my house. Now that looks better. I've managed to free up, what's that, 12 shulker boxes. All of these are duty bound for the mines. But I do have one small problem. I can't seem to find my chest plate. I've checked like most... Oh, I haven't checked this chest. I haven't checked this chest. Nope, not in this chest either. My chest plate has got to have been put somewhere. I just can't find it. I hope it hasn't been lost in the crashed inventories that we had when building this mine. And just like that, we are fully organized into the new storage room. And I now have 18 shulkers ready to use again. So I set to work on gathering the resources that I would need for the path. Starting with the mud. After grinding out the mud, I could turn it all into packed mud. Then it was time to begin shaping out the pathway, and I didn't want a straight pathway. Those are boring. Once it was dug out, it was time to insert the packed mud, which was going to travel all the way from the bridge to the mine, and then up to a little staircase that would be in front of the starter house. Now to start with, I was just going to use packed mud. I did want to frame out the edges with some of the packed bricked mud, but I didn't know exactly where the buildings were going to line up with the edges of the road just yet. So I figured that would be a later KC problem. And just like that, we have a pathway connecting the mine, the bridge, and the farming district. Now the pathway was finished, I could turn my attention to the buildings. This was the first house that I wanted to install. This was a somewhat diagonal house that could house inside of it some mining, trading villagers if need be, and I figured that it would fit very nicely just alongside our starter house. I pushed it back just a couple of blocks here, as this whole building right here, or rather this whole cliff face, hill, yes, this elevation, was definitely going to be trimmed back in the process. So as it currently stood, the building wasn't going to fit. There were blocks in the way and they needed to be trimmed down. And I took this moment to do just that and then fill you in on a little secret. You see, part of the reason why I have decided that the starter house is going to sit high above the rest of the builds is because it was the first thing that we ever built within this world. And I want it to stand out when we come back here in the future, many thousands of days from now. Now with the area cleared, it was a case of gathering the resources that I needed to construct it. With a short trip to the mine, I had all of the stone resources that I would need. Once I was done raiding my supplies, I was only missing a few things. And this meant that I could do something I have been absolutely terrified of doing for the past couple of episodes. I could don the wings and I could fly out to get myself the oak wood I needed. For those of you who have no idea what I've been on about, Well, in the last episode, I suffered something like 27, 28 crashes in like a 3-hour period. Turns out it was my processor. I thought it was my graphics card. I did a little upgrade. I will warn you though, it was just a little one. As I know nothing about graphics cards whatsoever or computers, I made the decision that I was just gonna go with the graphics card that I thought was okay. You know, I was with the 2080 for some time, but I thought I'd just have a little bit of an upgrade. Okay, fine. I'm done being sarcastic. Joke over. With all the jokes aside, and in all seriousness, my game has been crashing on and off for a few months now, and the issue always stemmed when I would travel outwards into new chunks. I figured it was a graphics card issue as that was the oldest part of my computer, but it turns out that I was actually wrong. It was a dying processor. So if you'd like to become a channel membership to help pay for the new graphics card and to stop my wife from burying me 6 feet deep in the back garden, now is the perfect time to do so. Oh wait, she's home. You know, I've got to say that the view from here with the buildings just there looks really nice. Finally back home, I now had all of the resources that I needed for this house. Now when it comes to this house, visually, I anticipate it being where the miners live, but functionally, it's gonna house some villagers that will have trades for us that may very well trade iron, coal, the things that we would likely get from the mines. Now, I did want these buildings to both stand out, but to also fit with the terrain around them. So the main block used here would be oak, spruce, and tough. Now, I also wanted to challenge myself when it came to this build, as I wanted to try and make a diagonal build look both simple and also have some relative detail to it. So I first built the entire thing out of just tough bricks and blocks. Then I went around and I added in these little oak things that hang on the sides just to break up both the shape and the color. And finally, to contrast against the lighter tones of the tough and oak, I decided to use a mixture of dark oak and deep slate within the roof. When it comes to finished products, this is what it looks like. You can see all of those different colors contrasting like I mentioned, and I think the stairs up there just brings that roof out just a tad. And over here on the sort of main entrance, or the back entrance should I say, yeah, it looks quite nice. I'm fairly chuffed with how this came together. And one more time, it speaks to the fact that I always try to play on my weaknesses and improve. Diagonal buildings are something that I definitely want to get better at, and some are easier than others. Small ones like what we did over there don't really have to be too detailed, but when you start to get into the main town, they do have to have some resemblance of detail, and with every one I build, I learn new and more important techniques. But more importantly, the grand total of resources that was duplicated thanks to crashes were that and that. Amazing! Now the second house is a little bit different. It's slightly on a corner. This one I wanted to do straight, but I wanted to try and do something different. You can see we've got a bit of a staircase back here that leads up to a second floor. And I think this one is going to go here. Then that way what we can do is we can take a road down here and in that direction past the mine. But once again, I did have to do a little bit of trimming to make sure that it would fit. After clearing out the area, I realized that I just didn't like one thing about this build. We had to go down here and up the staircase in this direction. So I decided to do a mirror flip of it, and that puts the staircase right here with the main entrance up there. And it didn't take long, thanks to the buildings that we had erected in the last episode, for me to be able to gather all of the resources that I needed. What was a problem, however, was the British summer that we were having, as there was one singular fly that had somehow managed to find its way into my office through the smallest gap known to mankind, but couldn't find itself out of here, and decided that the favorite place it liked the most was the top of my eyeglasses or the bottom of my elbow. Nevertheless, I continued on. With this build, I wanted to try something slightly different, but also incorporate it with what we'd been doing elsewhere. That being including the oak wood and also the stone. I wanted to go for a lighter shade so that all of the buildings didn't seem the exact same, but to really help it fit in with the rest of the buildings and to make sure that it didn't stand out, I did use the dark oak in the roof. And just like that, we have the second house by the mine right here. And we've also got the wandering trader, or as I like to call him, the Alt Inspector, because he shows up. Ooh, open. eye blossom. That might be a good trade. Hang on, my dude. I think there's some emeralds in here. There is. How many eye blossoms can I get? 7. We could take a couple of cactuses. That saves us a trip out to the desert. Now, where was I? Oh, yeah, that was right. Talking about this house. I tried to combine some techniques that I hadn't used before by incorporating these hangovers made out of oak. You can see that I used it over there and over here. I also wanted to do something different with the entrance by putting it up on the second floor as opposed to down on the first floor like we had over here. But over here, we've got 2 different entrances. We've got the rear entrance back here, and then we've also got the front entrance around this side over here. And I just wanted to do something different with this one, and I wanted to try not to do a lot of detail within the walls themselves and focus more on the other bits, like the juttiati bits, as I like to call them, staircases, just to break up the front facade and using a stone bottom. And I think this turned out pretty good. Yes, this is what a trader did turn up when we did this. We could put the eye blossoms in there. And it was at this point that I made a huge mistake. You see, I'd been recording a few shorts over here in the farming village, as I wanted to try and make the short content its own. So I did an interior for the potato villagers, and I also did the same for the carrots. You happy up there, my friend? While doing this, I was constantly taking resources out of chests and putting them away again. And it was doing that I made a critical error. Prior to my computer crashing, I had installed a resource pack that meant that the Totem of Undying was actually invisible when being held in my hand. I had no idea that I had it until it would go off. Yeah, and I hadn't even realized that this entire episode, it had been showing up on screen. So when I was building those houses, I had no idea that it had been stuck in a chest within the house. I just kind of figured that I still had it equipped. And with most of this episode being shot several months ago, life kind of got in the way. So as I was flying back home from a trip just exploring the area, it happened. The elytra broke, and I fell. Now all of that happened while I wasn't recording. So I hope you enjoy the dramatic recreation that I had to make of exactly what happened to the hardcore world. I can't believe it. I was absolutely gutted when this happened. And like I said, most of this episode was shot months ago. And I just really didn't know what to do. I was at a loss. Now, there is always the fact that this world literally has a backup that was made just moments before the elytra crashed. I make a habit of backing up the world every time I need to update the version of Minecraft, add new mods, do anything that might intentionally break the world. But those backups are for mistakes. Mistakes that are made through bugs, not through mistakes that are made by me. I fell. I made the mistake. I should have double-checked the Totem of Undying. So that is it. The end of the hardcore world. Although I am glad that I did have the backup because it allowed me to film the death and show you guys in spectacular fashion how this world came to an end. Now this doesn't mean that I'm done with hardcore Minecraft. I plan to start the hardcore forever world, which, I mean, this was supposed to be the forever world, but it ended up not being the forever world. But I do plan to start the hardcore forever world in the very near future. So don't worry about that. Hardcore Minecraft will return with a brand new world, and this time I'm going to make sure that I've always got a Totem of Undying on me. That was a mistake. It's the first time I think I've ever died in a hardcore world. But I just wanted to take a moment at the end of this episode to fill you guys on and a little bit of the stuff that's happened in my life. 2 weeks ago, I had to put down my dog, and I just wanted to share a picture of him here on the channel. This is Pongo. That is Pongo. This dog meant the world to me, and it has been a tough time getting back into YouTube, being in my office without having him lazing around on my floor, coming and putting his head on my lap, or knocking my mic, or even whining in the background as he used to do. I'm going to miss this dog, and I want to make sure that he lives forever. So from now on, Pongo is a part of this channel. I love you, boy. And that is going to do it for this episode, the final episode in Hardcore Minecraft. The next Hardcore series I'm going to be doing is going to be entitled Hardcore Forever, and I'm going to be doing everything within my power to make sure that world does go on forever. It'll be the hardcore forever world until we die, and then it'll just be the forever world. That's a cheap way of doing it, isn't it? Yes. But I'm looking forward to that brand new series, and I finally learned how to use replay mod, so I'm going to be incorporating that a lot more into the gameplay moving forward. But as always, guys, I'm KC. You are the awesome folk. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to check out the entire Hardcore series playlist, feel free to do so as we embark on brand new adventures. And also check out the Bloomcraft server. That series is one of my favorites to be working on, and I'm so excited to get back to it. I can't wait. But as always, I'm KC. You are the awesome folk. Thank you so much for watching. You take care now. I shall see you in the next one.